Good morning, friends. Welcome to Ecoholics YouTube channel. Friends, my name is Avinash Agarwal, and in this video, I'll be discussing with you important current affairs from 22nd May 2024. I have picked up three important articles from the Live Mint newspaper website. First article pertains to Chabahar. It will help you in answering a question such as the importance of Chabahar port for India, its geostrategic and geoeconomic significance for India. The second article that I'll be discussing in today's lecture is India's performance on a tourism ranking, which has not been great recently. So why is it that India's tourism sector is not able to attract as many foreign tourists and is not able to generate as much boost to GDP and is not able to generate as much employment as it should be able to? So the second article is related to tourism. The third article is related to the current state of Manrega scheme. Manrega is an important part of almost every examination's syllabus. So in the third article, we will be doing a lot of deep dive into data pertaining to the Manrega scheme, and we will be trying to understand how has the performance of the scheme been of late, what are the important numbers related to budget, numbers related to the jobs created within the scheme, the jobs demanded within the scheme, and so on. So that is going to be the focus of today's discussion. I would like to mention to you all that 20th and 21st, that is Monday, Tuesday current affairs, is something that is not part of this playlist, but what I'll be doing is that I'll be covering those days going ahead. So as in when I feel that there's a shortage of content on any day specifically, so I'll pick up 20th, 21st newspapers and I will pull out the articles from there, right? So I was on a personal leave, because of which I was not in a position to cover current affairs for 20th and 21st. But you be rest assured, I'll cover it for you one way or the other, right? So now let us start our discussion with Chabahar. If there is anything that anybody would like to say, please share. Otherwise, I will move ahead, right? Good morning, Nayan. Thank you for joining in, right? So let us start. I can see the comment section. So if you are making any comment in the comment section, then I'll be able to respond quickly, right? So let us start. So what has happened in Iran and why we are talking suddenly about Chabahar is because of two reasons. Reason number one is India's renewed interest, renewed commitment towards Chabahar port, India's willingness to put money into that port. And second, a more unfortunate part over here being that Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, right? So he has passed away in a helicopter crash, right? So because of his death, and now what will happen is that there will be a change in presidency in Iran, right? So we are uncertain whether the incoming or the next Iranian president will be as enthusiastic about Chabahar as Ibrahim Raisi was. So this is where this is where we are stuck right now, so far as Chabahar is concerned, right? So like I mentioned to you that India has renewed its commitment to this Gulf of Oman port. Chabahar is located in Iran's Sistan Balochistan province and is just about 300 kilometers from Gwadar port in Pakistan, which Pakistan is developing in collaboration with China under the Belt and Road Trade Initiative. So what has happened recently was that Sarbanand Sonowal, who is our shipping minister, he visited Iran for signing an agreement, which basically is a new 10-year deal, right? And it will see India Ports Global invest $370 million into Chabahar. Chabahar is very important for Iran because Iran is facing tightening sanctions from US. Iran's economy is stuck between a rock and a hard place. They cannot trade freely with the rest of the world because of the US sanctions. Not a lot of Western countries are willing to trade with Iran. So whoever is willing to trade with Iran, that becomes really, really important for Iran. India being one of the largest developing countries, one of the largest markets in the world. So trading with India and having good relationships with India is pivotal for Iran, and Iran's resources and Afghanistan's resources, which India was hoping to extract via Chabahar, right, for its own development, was also very, very important for India, right? So like I mentioned to you that Ibrahim Raisi took personal interest and initiative when it came to Chabahar. We don't know what Ibrahim Raisi's successor's outlook will be, given the fact that Iran is right now in a geopolitical or a geostrategic conflict with Israel, and there is a lot of pressure from a variety of different sources as well. We don't know for sure what will be the priority of Ibrahim Raisi's successor. One thing is reasonably sure, that whoever comes in and become Iran's president will be again a hardliner, will again be handpicked by Ayatollah Khamenei, right? Khamenei. So we know that for sure, but we don't know how, they are going to look at Chabahar. Chabahar, like I explained to you, it provides a multiplier effect to Iran's economy, but we don't know how they will look at it. Another thing that is, adding to the uncertainty around Chabahar is the impending elections in United States of America. Now, let us say if Democrats win and let's say Joe Biden comes back to power, so he may be willing to, just let India and Iran do their, side show on Chabahar and not really interfere very, very strongly. On the other hand, if a Donald Trump kind of a president returns back to power in United States of America, he may be unwilling to, ignore the fact that India is having very strong relationships with US and then going around and investing in Chabahar in Iran. That is something that he may not condone, right? So these are some of the constraints that we need to look at. The United States has been talking about putting even more punitive actions on Iran, so we need to be watchful of that. Another problem with Chabahar has been developments in Afghanistan. So you see, when Chabahar was conceived originally, the idea was to have a three-way trade project between India, Iran and Afghanistan. And the fact that there was a democracy which was, taking root in Afghanistan, that was helpful. But right now the situation is different. Taliban has taken over Afghanistan in 2021, and our original idea that we will be able to extract ores and minerals from Afghanistan for our refineries, that may or may not happen. So again, Chabahar is important for India from a geostrategic point of view as well. Like for instance, if you see India's conduct of late vis-a-vis Israel and Palestine, so India is heavily dependent on Israel for security partnership. We get a lot of arms, ammunition, technology from Israel, so we cannot afford to alienate Israel. But at the same time, the situation in Palestine has been very difficult and it calls for humanitarian intervention. So India has been doing a lot of tightrope walking, but despite all of that, it seems that India is slightly in favor of Israel and not so much bothered about Arabs on the other hand. India doesn't want this kind of an image. So signing a Chabahar deal, putting money into Chabahar is a way of communicating to Arabs that we are very much there on your side too. So from that perspective, Chabahar was important. From another perspective that Chabahar is important is connectivity. Now recently there was this India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor that was finalized. Chabahar is sitting at a very strategic point vis-a-vis this economic corridor. So we want access to Europe, which is our very important export market, right? So we are creating definitely an India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. And if we can create an NSTC, that's a North-South transport corridor, starting from, let us say, Iran, going towards Central Asia and then going into, let us say, Europe, right? So that could also be a substitute or an alternative route, but that alternative route starts from Chabahar. So that is the importance of Chabahar. Of course, we also want to counter the Gwadar port that is being created in Pakistan in partnership with China as a part of BRI, that is the Belt and Road Initiative. Now it depends upon our negotiating skills, geopolitical acumen and staying power, whether we are able to actually take this port to its full potential or not, remains to be seen. This port has been talked about since, like, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years, in variety of examinations. And there is always a possibility that they can ask you a short question on this. So this article should give you some perspective. If there is any question you can ask, otherwise I'll move ahead to the next discussion. So India has slipped 10 spots on World Economic Forum's tourism ranking since COVID. Right now, there are a few things that I should highlight which will be helpful for you. So I want you to note down this particular, statistic, this particular ranking. This is very, very important. Please note it down. The idea being that, see, what's happening is that India's health facilities, hygiene facilities, tourism infrastructure, low skilled manpower, low amount of budget that the government is setting aside for promoting tourism activities within India. These are some of the major reasons why India is not performing well on this particular ranking. So if they ask you a short question on, let us say, the tourism sector, which can contribute seriously to GDP, which can create a lot of jobs in a lot of diverse locations in India, and what are the problems beset or what are the problems that this sector is facing, then this article will help you in answering that, right? So these are the problems that have been highlighted. This is the ranking that you need to keep a note of. So India's score has been 4.25, right? So the fact is that if you're closer to 7, then that means that you're not doing well. So we are closer to 7 in that sense, right? If you see among the world's top 10 economies, India's slide in the ranking has been the sharpest. So what is the solution now? The problem has been explained to a certain extent. What is the solution? So solution is revamping tourism policies and creating a conducive environment for domestic and international travelers. We need to streamline our regulations. We need to incentivize investments, right? Whether it is tourism policy, air transport, tourist service infrastructure, these are the areas where we need to invest quite heavily. What is good about us? The good about us is that we are very price competitive. We are not a very expensive destination. And if you look at our cultural and natural heritage, that is significant. And if you look at the kind of investment that the government has been doing in revitalizing our cultural resources in terms of building temples, renovating temples, upgrading temple towns. So serious amount of money has been put into that particular direction, serious amount of money. But the problem is that our poorly skilled human resource, our poor hygiene, right? All of these things, they are not helpful, right? They are not helpful. So this is again a statistic that you should note, that 10.93 million international travelers came to India in 2019-20, right? But we are struggling to get to that, reach that mark again, and we need to go beyond that mark, right? So India needs to improve its infrastructure, its policy conditions, and sustainability. Why sustainability is important? Sustainability is important. I'll tell you, there is an important thing that is coming. I'll tell you that going ahead, right? But again, the importance of this industry is over here. 10% of global GDP is what they contribute. So there is a lot of data that is provided over here for other countries. I'm skipping that because we are bothered about us. Okay. So from a sustainability point of view, this sector is again, something that is very important. So if you see 5.8% of global water use, 5 to 8% of global material extraction in 2019 was, because of this sector. Now, if India is developing this sector, then we need to develop it in a manner such that we are very, very sustainable, right? Because otherwise, the problem of biodiversity loss, climate-related events, air pollution, etc., this can only get exacerbated. So there are two things that you need to note over here. First is that if we are having these climate extremes in our country, climate-related issues in our country, that will depress the inflow of tourists, whether domestic or foreigners, right? And simultaneously, if this sector continues to grow in an unchecked and in a very haphazard manner, then it is going to further contribute to this biodiversity loss and pollution, etc. So from both the angles, we need to be very, very mindful. Okay. Putting some numbers again, these numbers, if you all are able to cite these kinds of numbers, not exact numbers, but ballpark figures, that we spent about 520 crores for tourism promotion, right? So we spent 520 crores for tourism promotion, that has come down to 340 crores, that has come down to 160 crores. So even a ballpark number like this will help you in differentiating your answers, because hardly anybody in India will be able to put these kinds of numbers into the paper. Provided you are able to note down these numbers, revise these numbers, and have it in somewhere in your mind space that yes, this was an issue, then you will be able to make this point stand up in your answer. Good thing, like I mentioned to you, is over here that our pilgrimage destinations, they are attracting a lot of funding, right? So from 150 crores to 250 crores now, we have put in some serious amount of money into pilgrimage destinations, right? Budget for tourism, it is unchanged. 22 23 and 23 24 budget was same. So this is not something which we expect, right? And I think that that's about it. So I've explained quite a bit to you over here. There's this very nice infographic which you can see when you download this note. This note is freely available on Ecoholics ka app, which is a beautiful app. We provide a lot of free content, current affairs, magazines, etc. through our app, which you just need to download, do a free quick registration, and then you're on your way. So just have a look at this infographic as well. I see that there are some comments, right? So Rashmi, good morning. Charulata, good morning. Suraj, good morning. Thank you for joining in. So now the next article, which is Manrega. Any exam typically can ask you a question on Manrega, whether it is RBI, IES, IAS, optional, anything can ask you a question on Manrega, right? Just be ready about Manrega, which this article is going to help you in a very big way, right? So See, Manrega has become a proxy for rural distress. If there is rural distress, if there is lack of jobs in rural areas, if people are having low incomes in rural areas, if there is nothing good that is happening in rural areas, right, then people will start going to, let us say, Manrega Thekadars or to Manrega officials, and they will ask for jobs. So if there is an increase in demand for Manrega jobs, that means that there is a rural distress or there is a problem in the rural areas. That is typically how Manrega is acting as an indicator for the government as to what is happening in the economy, right? It is that important, okay? And putting money into this scheme therefore is extremely important. Now, problem with this scheme is that you see that initial budgeting will be at an X level, right? And the final expenditure will be at a much greater than X level. So let's say that I say that at the start of the year in the budget, I say that I'll put X amount of money into the scheme. I often end up putting, let us say, X plus 30% or X plus 20% or X plus 15%, depending upon which year it is, right? Like, for instance, if you see the last financial year, right? So whatever we had budgeted initially, we spent 43% over and above that budget, right? So that clearly tells you that our initial budgeting towards Manrega is very pinched. We are being very, very tight-fisted towards Manrega. Why are we so tight-fisted towards Manrega? Because we hope that the job market will be strong. We hope that the jobs market will be strong, so people will not come and demand Manrega related work. But when that job market is weak, which it typically is, then people go and demand Manrega related work. So like I said to you, that Manrega has become a proxy for rural distress. 84% of the states, they were reporting more work being done under Manrega in 23-24 compared with the last pre-COVID year. This is an important statistic that you should be able to understand and appreciate and be able to reproduce in your papers going ahead in this year at least. Why is this important? See, COVID was difficult, but before COVID we were fine. We were doing well, right? So if you compare what is happening in 23-24 with the last pre-COVID year, you are seeing that 84% states were still reporting more work being done under Manrega than the last pre-COVID year. Then that clearly indicates to you that the job problem that was created because of the COVID, the distress that was created because of COVID, has still not completely gone away. Which is exactly why nobody does Manrega Mazduri, because it is so fantastic, it pays so well, it is so great, etc. etc. People do Manrega Mazduri out of sheer compulsion, out of sheer helplessness, right? So that basically tells you that compulsion, that helplessness, that lack of options is still very much a problem in a variety of areas. Low budgeting, like I have said to you so many times, low budgeting despite elevated demands, right? That has often been criticized by the parliamentary committee report itself. It's not me or the media or the journalists or anybody else or researchers who are saying this. Parliamentary committees comprising of MPs from even the ruling political parties in India, they have criticized the low budgeting for Manrega, right? And what happens is that when you don't put funds into Manrega, then that leads to delays in wage payments. And when there is a delay in wage payment, that acts as a disincentive to work under Manrega. So even if I am helpless and I want to work under Manrega, still I will not work in Manrega because I know that wages will get delayed. And why are the wages getting delayed? Because of wage cuts. So this is a very nice infographic over here, right? So on the left hand side, you see the light blue part is the budgeted expenditure towards Manrega, and the dark blue part is the actual expenditure towards Manrega. So you see that actual is greater than budgeted in 23-24, in 22-23, 21-22, 20-21. So typically in all the years, the actual is greater than the budgeted. This is not good budgeting. That's a separate topic to discuss, but this is not good budgeting. This is typically not how you're supposed to do your budgeting. Just keep that in mind. That means that you're not able to estimate the demand properly. You're not able to estimate the resource requirement properly, because see, this may appear like a small problem to you, but you multiply this over 15 important schemes of Government of India across different allocations of Government of India, and you will see that somewhere the money is stuck, being unutilized, somewhere we need more money, we need greater resources, but those resources are unavailable. So both these challenges, they need to be resolved. Okay, employment given under the scheme, it still exceeds the pre-pandemic levels, right? So darker the shade of red, meaning that there is greater the requirement from the pre-pandemic level. The delta is higher, right? So you can see that in Maharashtra, in Tamil Nadu, Arunachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, right, where you can see these dark shades, the requirement for jobs under Manrega is very much higher than the last pre-pandemic year, which was the normal year, let us say. Okay, 133 million individuals sought jobs in 2021. That number is down to 93 million. So you can take a note of this, right? If you look at states such as Maharashtra, 30%, there is still a more than 30% demand in 23-24 as compared to 2021, which was the last pre-pandemic normal year. That's the case. In several northeastern states, you see similar patterns, right? So what that tells you is that there are pockets in India where there is still a lot of distress that needs to be alleviated, and government has granular data. They know exactly which districts are creating huge demand for Manrega, and probably we need to do something long lasting for those districts, right? So that's an important, positive, constructive picture that can be drawn out of Manrega. So this infographic is very, very clear to you, right? It tells you persons who demanded work under Manrega, and it is comparing 23-24 with 2021. So in Maharashtra, there is a 30% demand increase in demand in 23-24 as compared to 2021. In Arunachal, 15%, Nagaland 12%, Himachal 6.5%, Tripura 1.6%. So there are pockets where there is a lot of distress, is what this picture is telling you, right? Another very important statistics that you must note down is this one over here, right? That around 10.5% people who demanded work did not get work in 23-24. 10% of 10.5%, 11%, right? And this infographic is again very, very important for you in that sense. You can see that at an all India level in financial year 19-20, 15.6% of those who demanded work did not get work. That number became 16% in 21. It is right now standing at 10.5%. You have to realize that Manrega is backed by a law passed by the parliament, that if I go and ask for unskilled labor work in rural area, then I must get it. It's my entitlement. And not being able to fulfill your promises made in the parliament, not being able to, fulfill legal requirements, that's not really up to the mark. These people cannot drag the government of India to court, etc. And even the courts will not intervene in such a manner. But this is a very big problem, right? There are states where 16.5% demand is unmet, right? 16.5 people out of 100 or 15 people out of 100, they don't get jobs that they are asking for, right? And even if you do get jobs, okay, then this infographic becomes really, really important for you, right? That what is the average number of days that you are able to work in Manrega? Manrega says that you should be able to work for 100 days, right? But if you look at the all India average, or if you look at averages of various states, that is somewhere around 50. Average should be closer to 100, right? If everybody is, if the law says that I should be able to get 100 days worth of physical labor, unskilled labor under Manrega, if I ask for it, and if people are asking for it, then they should get 100 days, but they are not getting 100 days. Why? Again, it is money issue. You don't have the money to pay wages for 100 days for the kind of demand that is getting created, right? So households that are provided work, they get work only for about average 50 days. This number has been fluctuating around 50. It was 48 at one point of time. It became 52 at some point of time. It has become 48 now, right? So again, this is because of budgeting. That your frugal budget disallows you to actually fulfill the promises that were made in the act, in the parliament, in the scheme, right? Huge delays in wage payment, they act as a disincentive for participation for rural workers. So this is my entire submission to you, right, today. 3 articles discussed, and as you all have been saying that this discussion should be confined to within half an hour. So I'm living by that. I'm not under any circumstance expanding this discussion by more than half an hour. So if there is any question that you would like to ask, please feel free to do that now. Nayan, Rashmi, Charulata, Suraj, Swarnalata, right? If there is any question that you all have, then you all can ask now. Otherwise, I'll close this session. I'll meet you all tomorrow again around same time 7:30. I'll typically start my session between 7:30 and 7:35, right? Sorry for the waiting period, right? I would try to be as close to 7:30 as possible, but there can always be a 1 or 2 minutes ka delay here and there. So just keep that in mind. So this is my submission to you today. I'll take your leave now. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much. All the very best and Jai Hind to all of you guys. Take care. Study well. Bye bye.